It is time, guys. It is time for me to do my top albums of 2017. And man, it feels like yesterday that I did my top albums of 2016 list. How many of you guys were there for that? You can leave that down in the comments if you remember that. And so I'm going to be listing these albums in order from worst to best. And these are in a particular order. And yeah, I got 11 albums here, which is quite a lot, you know. I think it's more than I had for my 2016 list. Overall, though, it has been a really great year for music, I think. It's been a great year for rock, especially. And, you know, Breaking Benjamin, they didn't step up their game enough to release an album this year. Well, that's more like Hollywood Records' fault. But they'll be releasing their album in probably early 2018. But I'll get to that later. But this here is my list of albums of 2017, so we can get on with it. So at number 11, I got listed here Melina by Leprous. Now, some of you guys may recall me reviewing this album, and I also forgot to point out that I'm going to be telling you guys how I discovered the band. And how I discovered this band, Leprous, I discovered them a couple of years ago, you know, back when The Congregation came out, and that was like the first material I've ever heard from them. And I thought it was good, and then I discovered this album. Well, I just decided to go and listen to it, and I gotta say, it's really good. I've actually grown to like it even more than The Congregation, actually. It's a really good album, and from front to back, it is just all around a good album, and you should check it out. And so now at number 10, this might come off as a shock to some people, but maybe not really. But I got here Vie Gesture with their EP titled All in Jest. Now, how I found these guys, well, they actually found me. They were subscribed to my channel like a year or two ago, and I, you know, saw that this band subscribed to me. I'm like, okay, I'm going to check them out. And I really do like what I hear. They're very solid rock. And this new EP that they released, All in Jest, it's actually good. I would even consider it some of their best work. And if you're watching Vie Gesture, thumbs up to you. It's a great EP, and definitely, it's probably my favorite EP of this year. Yeah, and these guys, this is a smaller rock band, and I even think they do rock better than some bigger rock bands out there, like Skillet. But yeah, if you're any kind of fan of rock, go check out this EP from Vie Gesture, because you might really find something out of it. And so now, the next one on this list, at number 9. At number 9, I got Seether with their album Poison the Parish. Now, if you're someone who likes classic rock from the early 2000s, you're going to love this album. Because if someone were to come up to me and say that this album came out in like '02, I would have probably believed them, because it really sounds like early Breaking Benjamin and 3 Days Grace, which is something that I can appreciate, but at the same time, it seems kind of unoriginal. But for what this album is, it's really good. It's a solid rock album. A lot of great songs on here. I have the deluxe edition, or the special edition to this album that comes with the 3 bonus tracks, and it really is good. And how I found Seether, well, technically I've heard about them years ago. I've heard about these guys years ago, back when the days I was a hardcore Breaking Benjamin fan. I didn't really check them out until this year, and this was the first album I've heard from them, and I gotta say, it's good, and it deserved a spot on this list. And if you're any kind of rock fan, you should go check it out. And so now we got number 8. Now, number 8, oh god. I know some people might have this listed a lot higher, like near number 1, maybe number 2. But I got here Starset with their album Vessels. And I know some of you kind of have your jaws to the floor right now, thinking, well, how is this album not ranked higher? Well, honestly, for me, it did not do well with age. It really, I really haven't came back to it in a few months. I still do think it's a good album, but honestly, I think their debut might top this one. Transmissions. But all in all, Vessels by Starset, it's a good album. It wasn't even a month into the year when we got this album. Even though part of the reasons why I haven't really came back to it too much lately is because of the electronics. A lot of you know that electronics and rock don't really agree with me too well. Not really my taste, but if it's done right, I think, they can do it. Red's new album's an exception. We'll get to that later. But yeah, I have Starset's Vessels on here. I'm really curious to see where Starset goes in their career, and I can't wait till they release another album, within maybe 2019. I don't know. We'll have to see what comes next. I hope they go back to a type of Transmissions type style, but we'll have to see about that. Oh, and how I found Starset, some of you guys have been recommending me to check them out, so I did. That's another thing too, a lot of you guys have recommended me to check out a lot of these bands, and I found a lot of bands this year because of you guys, so thanks. And some of these other bands I kind of just looked up. So yeah, and so now we got number 7, and at number 7 I got here Winter Sun with their album The Forest Seasons, and boy, this is an underrated album. I feel like this is an album that people would have a lot lower than me, because a lot of people don't really like the whole Viking metal thing. And while I agree, I'm not really a big fan of Viking metal myself, Winter Sun does it enough to where I can enjoy it. Basically what they do is they combine melodic death metal with Viking metal, and to me it works. It really is a great album. And an unpopular opinion to say, but The Forest Seasons I think is some of their best work. Like a lot of bands like Winter Sun, they have either, a few tracks, but all the tracks are really long. And that's the way it is with The Forest Seasons. It's a few tracks, but all the tracks are reasonably long to go album length. And it really is great. From the front to back, it's a great album. So I do recommend it. If you're a fan of bands like Insomnium, I think you might like these guys, because the bands are very similar. It's really hard to say who I like more. Probably about the same, I'd say. I've really been listening to this album a lot lately, though. The Forest Seasons by Winter Sun. It's a great album, and you should go and check it out. Oh, and how I found Winter Sun. I was just Googling melodic death metal bands one day, and I discovered them and decided to go check them out. And so now at number 6, now, I hate that I even have this listed as low as I have it. Because late 2016, when 2017 was coming around, I thought for sure that this would be number 1. But unfortunately, this album did not do well with age this year, and that is Demon Hunter Outlive. And yeah, a lot of you know that Demon Hunter has been my favorite band for the past 3 years since Extremist, and this album Outlive did not do too well with age. It's still a very good album, and I still I've listened. This is probably my most listened to album of this year, because of how big of a fan I was. But honestly, I can't even put Demon Hunter at my number 1 anymore. Not just because of the direction, but because of their sound that drained in my system, kind of. They're kind of worn off into me. I've implanted their sound into my brain for far too long, I guess. I don't know. Even though this album didn't do too well with age, there's still a lot of enjoyable tracks on this album, especially within the second half. The second half of this album is where it's at. And yeah, if you're a Demon Hunter fan, for some reason you haven't checked it out yet, you might want to do so. What else can I say? I'll have to make a separate video about, Demon Hunter's aging for this album in the future. But it still is good for what it is, I think. Oh, and how I found Demon Hunter. An old friend of mine gave me a playlist of some of their ballads, and that's kind of how I discovered them, by checking that out, and I wanted to get more into them. So that's how that happened. And so now at number 5. At number 5, I got here Project 86, Sheep Among Wolves. And this here is a really good album. Project 86 is back at it again. We thought that they would never return, but here they are. And this album is great. I feel like it's heavier than previous Project 86 albums, and that's a good thing, I think, because, they're kind of stepping up their game, going above the boundaries. And it really is a good album. And while it's not their best album, it still is really good, and I put it in my top 3 Project 86 albums, because it's that good. So if you have not checked it out yet, definitely do so. And how I found this band, again, the same friend gave me a playlist, and Project 86 was one of the bands on that playlist, so I decided to further my fandom. So yeah, I discovered them and discovered I liked them. So yeah, definitely check this album out and Project 86, because they're a very underrated band. And so now at number 4, we got The Stories We Tell Ourselves from Nothing More. Now this album, there would have been a time when I had this at number 1, but this is the same reason with Starset's Vessels. It didn't do very well with age. I don't know if it's just because it's a rock album or what, but I really don't come to it too much like I did before. But it still is a very good album, and it's, without a doubt, Nothing More's best album. Yes, even better than their self-titled, and their self-titled was outstanding. But The Stories We Tell Ourselves, really great. Definitely my favorite Nothing More album. And how I found these guys, same reason I found Starset. You guys have requested me to check them out, so I did. And so now at number 3, we got August Burns Red with their album Phantom Anthem. And this is a brilliant album. Some of August Burns Red's best work. It's very, very good. It's like I said about Project 86. This is within my top 3 favorite August Burns Red albums, and it really is good. The brutality that's in this album, the melodic moments, and everything else. They step the boundaries with this album, and it's outstanding. Some of their best work, like I said. That same old friend of mine gave me a playlist of bands and songs, and August Burns Red was one of those bands, and I decided to go check them out further. And yeah. And next on this list, we got Red with their album Gone. And I know some people might have this listed a lot lower. I know. But to be honest, this is a good album, I think. It's really, really good. I come to it a lot, actually. This is probably the rock album that I've listened to the most this year. And one thing that I really love about this album, it has some of their best ballads since Until We Have Faces. Release the Panic's ballads, trash. Of Beauty and Rage ballads, trash, even though that's a great album and still probably their best, right next to Innocence and Instinct. The ballads weren't good. The ballads on Gone are excellent. They're really good. Some parts remind me of Hymn for the Missing. Some parts remind me of Best Is Yet to Come. Songs like those, even the bonus song, The Mask Slips Away from Gone, really good. And Coming Apart's good. And even all the other songs on this album, like Losing Control, Fracture, Chasing Your Echo, Singularity, are all just really great songs. And Red's Gone is just a very good album. I've been a fan of these guys since the Until We Have Faces days, since they only had 3 albums. And how I discovered these guys, well, I was I found them on my own, really. Just discovered them online, so. And now we get to the number 1 album of this year. And I don't know what you're doing if you don't even have this in your list. But I got here The Sin in the Sentence by Trivium. And Trivium, I found these guys, again, through that old friend, you know, same reason how I found August Burns Red and all those other bands. Yeah, but this album, it's some of their best work, and definitely the best of their new stuff, I think. You can't go wrong with this album. Every single track on this album is top notch. It really is a great album. And if you are any kind of fan of Trivium, you are going to want to check this out. And I would say The Sin in the Sentence by Trivium is my favorite album of this year. I just have to say that. I didn't really think anything of it when I first listened to it, but you really have to give it a few listens to really absorb it, and it's really great. That's all I can say. Well, guys, that concludes the list of albums of this year, but I do want to talk about some other things too, about some albums that are coming out next year, etc. And the albums that are coming out next year, well, of course, we got Breaking Benjamin coming out with their album Ember. So that's probably like my most anticipated. That and the new Knives album. We don't know the name of that yet. And well, 3 Days Grace, we'll have to see about them. Not too wild about the new vocalist that they have. But we'll have to see. I don't know. As I Lay Dying, possibly making new material next year. Putting out new material next year as well. I don't know. We'll have to see what next year delivers. I really do hope next year will be a great year for music. Although, even though this year had a lot of great albums, I still think 2016 had the better list of albums, because we had Megadeth, Metallica, Insomnium, Dark Tranquillity, Meshuggah, all these bands, of course, I'm a bigger fan of metal than I am rock, so I do feel like last year had the better albums than this year, because this year was very rock centered, but that's not a bad thing, because they're all great rock albums. What can I say? I do hope that we get some of the classic bands coming back around. I hope Iron Maiden comes out with a new album at some point. I know a lot of people say The Book of Souls will probably be their last, but I hope not. But it'd definitely be reasonable if it was. I don't know. I just really hope for something new, And I also hope that Metallica and Megadeth come out with some new material at some point. Metallica, you probably won't expect anything from them till the 2020s, because you know how they are when they release albums. Megadeth might come out with one next year, maybe 2019, I don't know. We'll have to see what next year delivers, we'll have to see. And now I want to talk about this year, 2017, personally. How has this year been for me, personally? It's been decent. There's been a lot of bumps in the road. There's been things that have happened, from the beginning and, to the middle of this year, I think. And even till now, I really was hoping that 2017 would be like my most innovative year, but it doesn't look like that. But it's, oh well, things happen for a reason, and we'll just have to wait and see what the future holds. And I'm hoping 2018 will be a better year. However, as far as this channel goes, 2017 has been the best year for this channel. I felt like this was the year that I like really gained a subscriber base, like really gained like my real loyal subscribers. Like back in the day, you know, like 2015, 2016, you know, those years, you know, people only really come to my videos if I'm talking about something that they like if I talk about a band that one of my subscribers like, you know, only one of those people will go and watch it. But anymore, when I come out with a new video this year, sometimes I receive the comments from the same people. So thank you guys, and thanks to everyone who has subscribed this year, and I look forward to see what next year brings, you know, what subscribers will come along, you know, within 2018 and so forth. I really do hope that this channel does even better next year. You know, let's step up the game. So, thank you all for watching. Thanks for supporting this channel. You know, the outstanding support this year that you have brought. And, yeah, it's really amazing. So, thank you all for watching. And I want you guys to let me know, what is your top list of 2017? List those albums down below. Let me know. And I'll see you all next time.